So, thank you everyone for joining us today. Today I have the honor to talk to one of my good friends and also a really inspirational woman in wildlife conservation, Geraldine Morelli. And she's the founder of Wild and Free Charity, which is a charity that rehabilitates and releases wildlife on a very global scale. And she supports numerous projects from with her charity. And for my print launch, which is taking place tomorrow, I am really, really excited to support her charity by donating 10% of the proceeds per print for her wildlife rehabilitation projects. So, Geraldine, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me tonight. And for those of you who don't know Geraldine yet, I would be really grateful if you could introduce yourself and just tell us kind of a little bit about how you started out in wildlife conservation and what inspired you to start Wild and Free.
Of course, be a pleasure. First of all, thank you so very much for having me and having the idea of doing this live, this video anyway, of us two talking about where the funds that you're going to raise are going to go and a little bit more about the charity. It's amazing to have the opportunity to have this platform to talk a bit more about the charity, but also especially doing it with you because I absolutely love your work. I think you're an inspiration. I think your work's beautiful. I think you send a very strong message about conserving wild species, landscapes, and all the work you do around it. So it's actually an honor for me that you chose a charity to be supported and that we're doing this live video. So thanks for that.
Likewise, thank you as well. And I can only return the compliment.
Thank you. But, yeah, so when we talk about the charity Wild and Free and how it all started, it actually started 7 years ago. Every year I'm thinking, wow, it's been another year. And it just happened very organically. I was volunteering in a wildlife rehabilitation center, primate wildlife rehabilitation center in South Africa. The first time I went there was simply because I fell in love with Africa the year before. I absolutely wanted to go back. And I love the wildlife, the landscapes that I had seen on safaris. And I really, really wanted to just experience more of it. But I wanted to be helpful. I wanted to do something useful there. So I found the center and actually love my experience so much, and especially the work they do, that they end up going back year after year. And I went back 7 times in total. And the work they do is fantastic because they rescue primates from the pet trade, from the bush meat, from all sorts of situations where they wouldn't stand a chance to live. And the whole work is focused on making them acquiring the skills to live wild and free again. So they're probably giving a second chance. And I thought that was an amazing thing in conservation that I don't think we hear or talk about much or enough. I always think that we talk a lot about rescuing animals, and we always think this is a wonderful thing to do, and it is. And we talk about how wonderful it is when an animal is returned to their home, their habitat, and it is. But we don't talk a lot about what's happening in between, and this is actually the critical part of the work, and it's a really important aspect of wildlife conservation, I think, anyway. And I discovered it and learned about it and thought, wow, this is something we don't really hear so much about. So I decided to do fundraising for them, for this center in South Africa. And from the fundraising, it be the idea of looking at other centers worldwide that were doing similar work, trying to benchmark the work they were doing, where they're successful at releasing the animals, where they're surviving afterwards, where they're reproducing, where they're actually conserving the species itself. I realized that there were a lot of discrepancies. Some of them are really good at it. Some of them have some failure. Animals die straight away. They're not released, they're dumped in the wild, and that's a very different story. They're rescued, but they're not properly rehabilitated. Loads of different reasons why an animal may not survive back in the wild. And the habitat itself is very important too. So then, after a few years, it led on to protecting habitats. It's just as important as, supporting this kind of project. But again, there's just so much to do in conservation. Anyway, I started to do this and I found other centers. So that led me to, I didn't put any barrier or what continent, what country, or what species. It started with primates and it just expanded to other species. I think when I what I sort of naturally got drawn into is supporting centers, organizations that are quite small, that you don't necessarily hear about, but that are absolutely amazing in the impact they have on the wildlife species they support. And not just with the animals, but also with the communities, with the government. They are fighters. They're on the front line, these guys. They, you know, they work 7 days out of 7. They drive a day if needed to rescue one animal. You know, they are heroes to me. What we're doing, what I'm doing, like trying to raise funds, creating a charity, it's nothing. These guys are there at it 24 hours, 24 hours. So I chose these people that I have a personal relationship with, or I build a relationship with. So I have really good communication with them. I know what their needs are. I know how much money they need, and it's never a huge amount. And this is something that surprised people. But it goes a very long way. And when I raise funds for projects, it goes 100% goes to it. So over the years, I've supported about 10 organizations and centers that covers like 4 different continents, 8 countries. So it became a bit bigger than I ever really thought about. Most of them are rehabilitation centers, but 3 of them are wildlife organizations that are quite small in numbers, not very well known, but to me they are absolutely incredible in what they do, and they work more to conserve and protect habitats or issues that stops animals from thriving. So for example, in Sumatra, I work with people who are fighting in the front line to preserve the forest and not for it not to be replaced with palm oil. And I visit them and I work with them, and they therefore support the wildlife that lives in this environment, which is, you know, Sumatran elephant, tiger, orangutan, and there's a 4th one. So sorry, I just forgot. So elephant, tiger, orangutan, and rhino, all critically endangered. And then in Tanzania, which is the current project I do, it's about somebody trying to address the human conflicts project, human wildlife conflict project. So they're all quite different, but they're really about protecting endangered species, their habitats, and I have a direct communication with the director of the organization, and I know where the money goes, and they show me how it's being used, and it has an impact, and that's amazing. So every time I see the impact, it just keeps me going. It's quite hard to raise funds, but you know, I'm lucky. I'm coming across people like you, and I just get supported, and that also is the reason why I keep going, because it's just amazing how much you can do with not so much funds actually.
I mean, it is true that a little can go a long way, especially in these countries where perhaps, you know, they don't live the same lifestyles as we do, or they don't have kind of the same value of currency that we do. So a little bit of money can actually help them a lot more than we think of here in the Western world. And something that, you know, besides us, you know, being friends and chatting for a while now, what also impresses me about your charity is that you really handpick the projects that you work on, and you make sure that, you know, these projects, 100% of the funds that you're raising, they're actually investing them into causes that are directly involved with protecting habitats, protecting wildlife. And that's something that I think a lot of charities nowadays don't have an oversight over, where exactly the funds are going, and it's something that's really incredible about Wild and Free. So a project that I actually thought was very inspiring was the elephant project that you're doing with bees. And as you mentioned, it's a project that kind of reduces the human-wildlife conflict. So I was wondering if you could tell us a bit more about kind of the projects that you're currently working on and currently supporting or fundraising for.
Definitely. So this is a project that is quite new. It's only started in November. And there's the director of this organization called Afewis, who asked me for help. And those happen. Sometimes I can, sometimes I think it's not the actual purpose of the charity. So I redirect, and you know, we all need to be helping out. Redirect someone who can help. But this one, I thought, I really, really want to do something there. This is a genius project, and it's such a simple solution. So the project is about putting beehives as a fence between a national park in Tanzania and farmers' land. The issue in this country and in these parks is that the elephants, which live in herds, are crushing the fences of the national park to get into the farmers' land to eat the crops. Obviously, the farmers are very unhappy. This is the source of revenue, so they get really angry. There are loads of issues about health, about safety. Sorry, they can just be killed by the elephants, or the elephant can be killed by the farmers who, you know, get really angry after a while. No one's winning this. In addition to that, the crops is gone, so they just lose revenue as well. The beehives are built from scratch. So when we raise funds, the organization is literally buying all the material from the shop and they're building it by hand. So I've got photos of them building, putting it beehives. And what they do, which is amazing, is they allow us to put the name that the person who sponsored the beehive choose. So everyone who participates with this project and sponsor one whole beehive can have their name on it.
That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah, so it's great because people have done it for animals, they've done it for their pets, they've done it for a lost one, they've done it as a couple, they've done it as a present, as a gift. And it's just great. So when people give a donation like this, I immediately send a certificate so they can give it to someone. And then as soon as I receive the photos of the beehive being built, I can share it with them. And then I can share the ongoing progress. So those beehives are then installed in specific areas around the national park, in the village, around the village, the boundaries. And they wait for the bees to come, and every month they go there for maintenance. So they need to make sure that insects don't come in, they need to make sure the bees are active. So they come and check and monitor the progress there, and they report onto me, which is great. So then I can report onto people. So per national park or per area that they try to protect, they're trying to have about 100 beehives. At the moment, since we started in November, we raised funds for 80 beehives. 56 of them are already installed and the beehives are active, and 26 I just sent the funds last week. And we've got another 20 to fund to finish that area. And every time it's about villagers that call the organization and say, we have real problems, these elephants are coming, it's very scary. And they are scared, the people, and they don't want the elephants to destroy their source of revenue. So then the organization goes and try to work out how can they do it, but they can only do it with donations. And you know, I promised them that we're going to finish those one and we're going to work on the next one. It's a project I want to continue helping, and we're starting to see the results, which is amazing. So one of the villagers was interviewed last week, 10 days ago now, and reported that they used to have about 20 elephants coming every week in the night and destroy the crops basically. And since the bees have been very active, because elephants absolutely hate bees, they get really scared, they're really good enemies, they only reported 3 elephants coming one night about midnight, and the elephants were 0.5 kilometers away from the village and they didn't come closer. So just in that one area, and that's just one villager reporting this, you can imagine how quickly that makes a difference to the entire people working there, you know, the safety, but also their source of revenue. And in addition to that, when the bees make honey, someone's going to sell the honey and there's going to be an extra revenue for those the people. So it's a solution that is simple, that works, a dream, and we're starting to see the results. And I just get so excited when I can share more of those. And I just encourage anyone to do it, because they can leave a legacy. They can go and visit their beehives if they want to go to Tanzania. They can, through my post and my updates, they can see what's happening. They see the photos of the beehive. It's really something that you're really part of. And everyone should be really proud to be part of it. I think it's an amazing project. So that's one of the current projects that we're working on. Yeah.
I mean, that's just incredible, because you can see the results straight away after installing the beehives, and that's something that kind of just shows how much impact these types of projects can make on the people as well as on the wildlife. And as you said already, a little bit goes a long way, and I think this is like the perfect example that to show that, you know, people can make the smallest of impacts by just donating a little bit of money and supporting, you know, supporting entire communities and changing their lives essentially.
I have the actual words have been quoted from the people saying, you know, thank you to Wild and Free and their donors. We're so grateful. You've changed our life. It's just like, sort of things. The communication is great now. We all talk on WhatsApp, and you know, you do have this amazing impact. I mean, the beehive is about £50, $70. So from beginning to end. At the beginning, people were just giving, you know, £10, and so on. But now people are literally sponsoring a whole beehive, happy to give £55, and they feel like they're getting a lot for their donation. I wish I could do this on every project, but they're all different. So sometimes it's not as easy to give something back as quick. But yeah, it's fantastic. It's a great project. So we'll continue. We've got another 20 beehives to go. Hopefully by the end of the summer, we can do that. Actually 18, because 2 new people sponsored the beehive last 2 days. Yeah. And then we go on to the next one, and maybe we'll save African elephant in Tanzania. It's actually not that big, not a crazy dream. It could happen. There are going to be other national park coming next. So
That's incredible. I mean, I'm really crossing my fingers that that's going to be a completed project by the end of the summer. And yeah, I'm hoping that I'll be able to donate some funds towards that as well, and get more beehives installed.
I can promise you, Lana, that with the donation that you will get, you will definitely get a beehive in your name. Yeah.
I really hope so.
One sponsor one, but it's me who offered one to people who are just doing incredible work to support us. So yes, you will.
Well, I'm honored to get a beehive in my name. I really would be.
It's great. It's great. So
Do you have any other projects that you're currently working on, or is this like your main focus at the moment?
it has been the main focus the last 6 months, but I have to say there's been another project I'm always also helping and working on, very close to my heart, actually very close to my neck. It's pangolin, and this is, well, despite the fact it's my favorite animal, it's an animal that deserves a lot of attention as well. And I've been always wanting to support organizations that work with pangolins. And for those who don't know, these are labeled the most trafficked mammal in the world. They live in Asia and in Africa only, and there are 4 species, subspecies in Africa, and 4 species in Asia. They are hunted for their meat that is seen as a delicacy by Asian people, or for their scales, which are being used for some sort of superpower apparently in Chinese medicine, traditional medicine, such as, you know, helping to produce healthy milk when you're breastfeeding a baby, or give you some superpower as a man to, you know, impress women, or just cure headaches, just the most like volatile reasons for those. Unfortunately, there's the number of poaching is thought to be about 1 every 5 minutes taken from the wild, to the point where we don't actually really see them at all in the wild in Asia. Where all the species are endangered or critically endangered. And now in Africa, some of them are endangered, and the vulnerable one are moving on to the endangered status because they couldn't be taken anymore in Asia. So they're being now taken in Africa and traded across borders. This has slowed down a little bit during COVID because people couldn't travel as much, which is good. So actually it did some good to the pangolin, but now unfortunately it started again because the demand is really, really high. So they are being decimated. And there's one wonderful center that I'm supporting in Vietnam called Save Vietnam's Wildlife. They really are the leading conservationist in pangolin conservation. And I've visited them and I've seen the work they do. Very small team, amazing people, like really dedicated. And there's another center that I'm supporting in Liberia. And that center is the only center in the country. They don't only work with pangolins, they work a lot with primates as well. And actually they rescue pretty much anything because that's the only rescue and rehabilitation center in the country. So they became really close to my heart because I knew they were working with pangolins. I knew they were working with primates. Primates is where it all started for me. Pangolin is my, you know, my love animal. But also, there's just a small team. There were only 5 people working there. And they asked for help last year during the pandemic when it started, because they used to have a couple of hours where they opened for the public to come and just looked at the animals that can't be released for education, which I think is how any animals in captivity should be, is just for education in the country where they belong. And because they can't be released, that's the only reason why they should be there. But anyway, that's what they do. And obviously they couldn't have anyone visiting, and it went on and on and on. So all that £5 that they're getting from the public suddenly went out. and they were really struggling to feed the animals. So I did quite a few fundraising, and I promised them to help support 3 months of food last year, which we did. And this year, as I did a birthday fundraiser and gave another month of food for them. But actually, they've got a much bigger project in mind, which is really exciting. That's the one I want to support. I haven't launched it officially, so it's a bit of a premiere. It's about the first release of the Sooty Mangabe, sorry, monkeys, which are endangered in the countries, and that would be the first time ever that it's been done in the countries. So they're working with the Zambia Primate Project, who are very experienced and successful at releasing primates, and they need help massively. A release is extremely expensive, especially when it's the first one. People might ask why. They're just 20 monkeys that have been all rescued from the illegal trade. So 100% of the animal rescued by this center called Liwasa is from the illegal trade. So they all find them with chains in their neck, the babies, the orphans, the tail is cut sometimes, they've got no hair, they're traumatized. I mean, if people want to follow them on their page, we can put the links over the centers for support. It's hard. And they're given a second chance, so that's the great news. And a release is about obviously making sure the troop is happy, cohesive, but it's going to involve a lot of food for the animals. It's going to involve all the fences, the material to build fences, because they're going to need to live in an enclosure before they're released. There is the staff that's going to work there, all the petrol, the transportation, the petrol, everything that is involved, like every day. And it goes on for quite a long time, because you need to make sure the animals are safe, they're feeling comfortable in their new environment, and once they're released, you need to monitor them for at least a year, make sure they're okay. So it's a huge cost, and because it's the first one, everything is from scratch. So once you've spent that money, a lot can be reused, but it's a big first time. So I really want to help them to do this. I really want Wild and Free to be part of this amazing project. They are, again, fantastic, very small team, amazing impact. They help every single animal. They're working day and night to save these animals. So yeah, I'm going to try to raise funds for them too, and do as much as we can. I've got a huge breakdown list of what money is for: colors, food, this, that. I've got a huge breakdown, which I'm not going to go through, but that's another big project for this year.
I mean, it sounds like a very impactful project that could definitely change a lot of lives for these animals. And it does sound like a very challenging project as well to kind of get on its feet and get started. So for me, a question that kind of comes up is, what are kind of some of your biggest challenges when it comes to supporting projects like this specifically?
So the biggest challenge, the first answer that comes to my mind is raising the necessary funds, because as May sort of said at the beginning, it's a small charity. It's pretty much just me and whoever wants to really support and help. And I would love to spend more time working on a charity as every day, all day, but I do it on the side of my job. So I'm on it every day, but I can only do so much in a way. And so my capacity at raising funds is not huge. Luckily, people are wonderful, and they follow up, but it never stops and always needs to raise funds. So this year I'm trying to actually ask for trust and foundation. We were preparing quite a few official documents to ask people to help us with those projects. So I hope that is going to get somewhere. But then it's really about communicating to people the best I can, trying to get as many people to help, and not necessarily to donate. But actually this year I've launched a new program for volunteers, which I call the Wild and Free Warriors. And what I would want is for people who have a very specific species that they want to help and support, that they almost manage it as a micro charity. That it's a little bit like a franchise thing, except they don't pay anything. They're being given all the tools about the background of why the charity is supporting this project, this species, why it's needed, why, etc., and how much. They're given all the merchandise, access to all the merchandise to sell if they want to support fund like this, but they're given complete freedom of how they want to raise funds. So I think it's great for young people who wants to get involved into wildlife conservation or charities in general, and just learning to raise funds, because they are under our umbrella. I look after them, but at the same time, they have the freedom to choose how to do it. And they do it for a species that they choose and they love and they want to protect and they want to see the impact on. So I just hope that a lot of people are going to be able to respond to this more. I've had somebody interested to do it for pangolin, and it's so much fun. We prepared a sort of pack for each species so that people can join in. But that's a big challenge. The fundraising is a big challenge. And then I guess it's just, always keeping on top of it and communicating to people. I want to do it as in a timely manner as possible, almost live. When I get good news, I can't wait to share it. When I heard about the elephants, good news, I just wanted to share it. But it was late at night. I had so much going on. I just waited a day or two. And so I do need help. The challenge for the charity is just hard to do different roles as just one person. Sometimes I'd love to have somebody that I can just rely on, is just enjoying and doing something that we can work together on. So that's been a challenge, but it hasn't stopped me, and it's not the end of the world. It just slows me down a bit, but it's fine. It's fine, and we'll continue doing it. So.
I mean, it's amazing to hear just how invested you are as well in the charity and how much kind of time and effort you put into managing all of these projects by yourself, essentially, and just kind of making it all work. So, that's something that I'm always amazed with when I hear about all the projects that you're doing.
It happens gradually. It's not like I didn't suddenly get in this seat and say, well, we've raised like £55,000. It didn't just happen. I didn't even know it was going to happen this way. It's just something I can't stop doing. It's an amazing feeling to have an impact on something that you're passionate about. And I know loads of people want to do the same. They just don't know where to start sometimes. So
yeah, definitely. And that's actually a perfect lead into another question that I was going to ask you, because I think for me, one of the questions that I get most frequently from people who are interested in wildlife conservation or just generally environmentalism or nature conservation is the question about how they can get involved and what they can do. And I mean, you're someone who's kind of taken your involvement in nature conservation a step further and founded a charity. But for someone who can't necessarily found a charity, what are some suggestions that you would have for them of how they can get involved? And one of them is, this program that you also suggested just now.
This program was really for that, because I did get quite a lot of questions as well, same as you, how can you get involved? And I thought long and hard to this question, and I've done a few presentations to colleges where I want to inspire people to try to do something, and so I was answering this question too. So this program, definitely the Wild and Free Warriors come from that. It's the opportunity to manage your micro charity with the safety net of a slightly bigger charity, which actually is not too big. So it's directly talking with me, and I hope I'm friendly enough, but it's all about learning and enjoying the journey and really learning. But the other I think volunteering in general is something that is great. And obviously when people help me, I'm not in the field. I visited all the project, but I'm not in the field right now. So it's a job that people will do remotely. What I really don't want people to do is to think that working to help wildlife is actually working with wildlife contact. And quite a few people have said, I want to be with the animals. If you want to be with the animals, then you need to be volunteering in a wildlife center. I would really recommend to work on rehabilitation center, because this is where you're going to get closer to the animal. Not sanctuaries so much. Sanctuaries good, but sanctuaries are animals that won't be released. It's okay. They need a home anyway, but I mean, it's fascinating to learn. Wildlife conservation is about conserving, so it's fantastic to just go one step further and really see what's being done with the animals. I had quite a lot of questions of people asking me, how do you know if a center is good or bad? I can read between the lines and I can do some research, and I feel quite confident when I point people towards a place or another. So I'm very happy to answer a question when people want to ask me, but I would say generally that all the centers I would support all tick the boxes of like, it's safe for you to go. It's just some of them don't necessarily have volunteers, so I was more behind the scene when I visited them. But volunteering is a great first step, because it will, and volunteering, not just in one place, but try different places as well. Because the more you see, the more you experience, the more you realize that some issues, some animals, some places, something is going to pull a heartstring more than another. And there's no right or wrong. It's just how you feel about it, and something might just click in your head, and this is what you want to fight for. And once you start having that click, there's no stopping you. You'll find a way naturally. That's what happens. So whether it's starting, a lot of people want to start a charity. There's no need to start something if someone is doing it already. I know sometimes, I think it's good to put your ego, not your, yeah, an ego on the side and just really doing the research. Is there a real need for another organization, or should I join somebody who's already doing a fantastic job? So it does involve some research, talking to people, joining chats. Used to be physical forums, but it can be online now. Just hearing expert talking, forming, shaping your mind to wildlife conservation, because everyone is going to say what they do is fantastic, but it's good to have your own judgment on it. And yes, trying different places, and then trying to volunteer and helping in different jobs, and the calling will happen.
Absolutely. I mean, I think also having the firsthand experience of being somewhere and kind of having to get involved hands-on in something is probably one of the best ways to learn about a specific animal or a specific species, just because you see them and their behavior, and you have experts to kind of guide you in how to handle them and tell you what they need. So
No,
I
definitely.
think,
And you're working with the actual expert there, and also, even if it's not a place, or if the place has some flaws, for example, it's an experience. You're learning about this, so you know where the issue is, and that might lead you on to something next. So there's no bad experience unless the animals are badly harmed or you're harmed. But there's no bad experience. The learning is amazing, and I think it's such an individual journey. It's very hard to copy someone else, basically.
yeah, definitely. And as you said, I mean, everyone kind of has their own passion and their own kind of little niche that they get involved in more than they do in another. And the best way to find that is to actually be kind of volunteering and getting involved with these charities and getting involved with these different projects, as well as your projects, perhaps as well, that you're currently doing. Um, so yeah, I mean, these are great tips, and it's not just the stuff that you normally hear, as in just turn off your lights and recycle your plastic and so on and so forth. So I mean, I think that's really amazing what you're telling us as well.
No, I don't have any background in this. It was just a calling that happened. I haven't done anything in my study that was going to lead me this way. For me, it was, I fell in love with Africa. I needed to go back. I needed to be doing something for wildlife. And my research took me to a primate rehabilitation center. That led everything. It's that one trip that changed my life. You have it, you have a thing for Nordic countries, and I know other people who do, and they're going to be other areas in the world that people will feel a calling for, and then just go for it. I think it's amazing if we all have that, and the youngest the better.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the more people get involved, the better. The more hands we have to help, the better as well, because it's kind of a community effort at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
And this is so much to do. That's the thing as well, is that in wildlife conservation, there are so many aspects. I always, in my head, visualize it as a chain, and it's got all these things, and all of them are linked and related. But if you take one out, the whole species can collapse. So environment, wildlife rehabilitation, and reinforcing laws, all the kind of things, they're all important. You can't work on everything, but you can work on one thing and try to do it very well. So I think it's good to keep this in mind. You don't need to save the planet on your own. You can just do one thing very well, and because of it.
yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. And I completely agree with that. And I think, as one of the last questions that I have for you, first of all, thank you for, providing all of these helpful resources and kind of giving us an insight into your projects and into what you do. One last question that I have for you is, why do you think that it's even important for us to protect wildlife and nature? Why should we care? Obviously, I have my own answer, but I'm sure that you will have your own specific one too.
I mean, first of all, I do think that since we're born, we all have this curiosity about nature. We all love and have this thing about little species, bigger species, enormous species. We don't all born thinking immediately, to think about Africa or just an elephant or just a whale. So I think that's something that grows in us, a very long time. And I think that the way we're being brought up very much immediately into education, studies, thinking about jobs, thinking about very practical material things, takes us, and some more than others, away from this curiosity and this natural, um, this natural way of being in nature, which is always there. It hasn't changed, it hasn't moved. It's always been there, but we were moving ourselves from it. So I think that one of the reasons we should care is because it's actually more natural for us to be close to nature than not. But when I see some of the projects, when I've seen, and I'm thinking one just on top of my mind, for example, in Sumatra, where all the forest was devastated, completely decimated, to be replaced by palm oil. And then the organization came and with a chainsaw, literally went on it with a chainsaw and cut down every single palm oil tree. The people were like, whoa, 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 what's going on? It's like, you have no right to be this. This is illegal palm oil. You have no right to be there. You could see on, I remember this one slide where 1 year later, after the palm trees were cut off, there was no wildlife, obviously. There's just nothing can live there, not even a bird. It's just palm trees after palm trees. 1 year later, you could see the bush was coming back up, some trees were coming back up. 2 years later, forests sort of like completely regenerated, absolutely amazing, different trees, different everything. They just planted a few fruit trees. Within 3 years, you had webcams with sighting of tigers and cubs, the most amazing birds, and there were bears, sun bears. You could start seeing the animals coming back naturally to life, and that to me just shows it's their home. Like, it completely belongs to them. You do nothing, they're here. So we are the one that actually take them away. And the reason why I think we should care and protect them is because they belong to us. Sometimes I want to say even more than us, because they deserve it more than us, but they just completely belong there. And if you let nature be, it takes over. And it's something that everyone enjoys watching. I don't know a single person that doesn't want to see an elephant in their life, that doesn't want to see an orangutan, that doesn't want to see a tiger. I still want to see a tiger, but I will never see it in captivity, only in the wild. There is a thrill in us to see a wild animal, not even to see it, to have the possibility of seeing one. Just looking for an animal gives you something that you would never encounter anywhere else in any other situation, I think. And certainly not in a zoo or anything like this. They provide us with so much excitement. We see ourselves in some of the behaviors, and maybe with primates or some very intelligent animal, you can relate to where they live, you can learn from them. And you have to be in awe of this animal. You have to respect them so much and feel like, guys, we clearly should live together. I can't imagine a world without them. I can't imagine a world without forests, without lakes, without mountains, without animals. I think it would be the saddest world in the world. I was going to say in the planet, in the universe, and I just wouldn't want to live there. And I actually think that everyone would feel the same if they asked themselves, could I? Even those who are city people who don't really care about wildlife. I don't think that's true. I think the wildlife wouldn't be there. Nature wouldn't be there. They wouldn't be able to breathe the air they breathe. They wouldn't be able to have the holidays they have. They wouldn't be able to do anything. We probably wouldn't be alive. So to me, it's a no-brainer. It's a pleasure, but it's a necessity.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't have put it better. Something that struck me is what you said when we were chatting, I think privately, when you said how your children's eyes lit up when they first saw, I think, maybe an elephant in the wild on safari. And I think that that's something you can't experience anywhere but in the wild. And this kind of connection to an animal, this kind of fascination to see them in their natural environment. And I mean, the key as well is that everything's connected. We take one animal out of the system, everything just collapses. And that's kind of why it's more important than ever to protect nature.
I so agree with you. Ecosystem, I didn't mention the word, but this is actually the key word. I remember one person asking me about children or something, and just asked me, how can children learn about conservation? And I remember saying this, and I really believe this: all children are born conservationists. It's actually the society that just undo them as conservationists. And I think we somehow deep inside, we all are conservationists. It's just that we just need to let it come out and just, more, and some people will have it more than others. But it's, in a way, we should all be conservationists by default. that should be our default lifestyle. It doesn't mean you have to fight, you know, fires in the Amazons and all these things. It just means you need to care every day about everything, and you need to look at wildlife. You can't ignore it. You can't ignore a beautiful little bird next to you, because you can't not care about it and then just want to care about an orangutan. That's not true love for wildlife. So yeah, I think we all have it in us. I do have hope, loads of hope.
I do too. And I mean, I really hope that also now by listening to you talking more about your projects and kind of giving us more insight into what you do, what your charity does, that people are going to want to care even more and get involved even more and just kind of jump on board and, you know, donate directly or also support the print sale and my donations to you. So I mean, in general, it's just been incredible listening to you. And I mean, for me, I actually, you know, as I said, I'm totally in awe. I really hope I can support these projects. And I see there's a little wildlife conservationist in the back.
Thank you so much. I do really hope that people will get your photos and will be there to make the most of the offer that you have as well for your prints. They are stunning, they are beautiful, the whole collection is amazing. Hello. And but I just think that hopefully not only people will love what you do and just want to have it in their home because it looks stunning, but it will also feel better for helping wildlife. And I promise them that funds that you're going, the 10% proceeds that you're giving to the charity is directly going to go into the project. And I'm very happy to you know, if anyone buys something and want to talk to me about it, then I'm very happy to answer the question. I just want people to feel that it's very genuine, and it's a genuine inspiration, and you know, I love the work you do, and I'm just very, very grateful for that. So I hope that people feel that chemistry and that enthusiasm for what we do both.
I mean, I really hope so too. And as I said, I'm really excited to work with you and support you in any way I can. And yeah, I'm actually also, for those of you who are living in the UK, because Geraldine, you're based in the UK, I partnered with a really amazing printing company called Klein Imaging. They're also kind of small scale, just like your charity, but they are such like a great print shop. They're super helpful too. So, I mean, I feel like I have this great team of you and them just kind of working together to hopefully make this work as best as possible. And yeah, I mean, if anyone has questions to you specifically or also to me about anything, just feel free to reach out, because I think we're both quite open to answering them and to giving you as much information as possible.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm there to answer any question, but I wish you all the best of success for tomorrow's launch. So I'm going to be posting a little bit more about it to make sure no one misses it. But yeah, all the best. It's a beautiful collection. You're very talented, Lana.
Thank you so much. And as I said, I'm really hoping that we'll be able to donate as much as possible and support your projects.
I'll keep you up to date with all of
Yes, yes, definitely. So to those of you who are watching this recording, thank you for watching it. First of all, thank you for joining us. And Geraldine, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me tonight, to give us a little bit more insight into your work. And as I said, I'm super excited to be working with you and hopefully in the future as well.
Definitely, me too. Thank you so much, Lana, and thank you for everyone who's been watching all the way to the end.
All right, well, take care, everyone, and we'll speak to you soon. And make sure to be at the launch tomorrow.